So let's break down this key scene from The Man by Taylor Swift, all right? So the first thing I think that's worth noting here is obviously that this is an intertextual link, isn't it, to John McEnroe, okay? So we've got to remember that whenever we're thinking about intertextuality, we've got to be thinking, is it a parody or is it a homage, okay? So what we're seeing here is a parody, okay? So remember, a lot of what Taylor Swift does here, this is one of your powerful statements that you can use. What she's doing, she's creating a parody of powerful men, okay? To expose their flaws and to humiliate them, okay? It's all meant to be aimed at humiliating them, okay? So remember, this intersexual link, in case you've forgotten, this is, or you could argue at least, is a link to John McEnroe, okay? And he's that tennis player that's very famous for having really violent and aggressive outbursts when playing tennis, and if a call doesn't go his way. But all of this is massively, we said creating that powerful parody of powerful men, but it's meant to undermine that assumed patriarchal dominance, okay? It's aimed to undermine that idea of patriarchal dominance, yeah. Okay, undermine the patriarchal dominance. Okay, why are men like this dominating in our society? Okay, that's the question that she's trying to force the audience to consider. All right, then, so more on a general level, okay, if we're thinking about, again, such a key technique that's all throughout this video, these hyperbolic, exaggerated gesture codes, okay? Why actually had this man smash a racket on the floor, throw around, and then start bawling and whinging on the floor, okay? So a few things you can say about this, okay? So obviously, in terms of simple connotations, you've got this sense of immaturity, haven't you, okay? You've got this, again, just this sense of, like, loss, yeah? The sense of, like, weakness, okay? Emotional weakness. And again, so we've got, what technique is being used, how it's communicating a certain message. So we're thinking about why. And again, it's this idea of kind of challenging a lot of toxic stereotypes that are in the media linking to men, okay? So it challenges that toxic stereotype that, men are emotionally stoic, that men can, control their emotions, okay? And if anything, it kind of forces him into this into the stereotype that women are overly emotional, okay? So we're challenging these toxic stereotypes, okay? We're seeing like an overturn of binary stereotypes. It's this idea that he's, got that stereotypically feminine quality, okay? This feminine stereotype of being overly emotional. Okay, and then finally, in this scene, we like to focus on this prop here, okay, this key prop. So we've got this broken racket, okay, that is smashed on the floor. Now this can symbolize a lot of things, okay? So, acts as a strong symbol, okay? Acts as a strong symbol for one, we could argue about how he is broken, okay? It could symbolize his fragile and broken ego. Okay, there's this, again, stereotype or this ideology, isn't there, that in a patriarchy, men have got to dominate, men have got to be the best. And when they don't, Taylor Swift has shown them to be these like pathetic, childish characters who cannot cope, okay? So we've got that racket symbolizes this frail and broken male ego, okay? We could also talk about how she might be making this point that patriarchy is broken, yeah? The system in which men like this are being rewarded, and celebrated and championed, that it's not just him that's broken, but our society as a whole that celebrates these characters. That is what's broken. Okay. So that is how I would break down that scene. Now, if we're thinking about how would you analyze this, okay, you could take any of these key points here, but let's go with the man uses. So the technique I might pick up on here is hyperbolic gesture codes. Okay. Okay, 2, and then you got to think what our point was. So it's the idea to, villainize and question why men are in such a privileged position. So we can say here, the man uses hyperbolic gesture codes to force the audience to question our patriarchy that celebrates immature and childish men. Boom. Okay, so there's our statement. That's our our key idea that this paragraph's going to focus on. All right, the mediated use of. So this is where we get specific with our evidence. Okay, so the mediated use of the man smashing his racket and crying. Smashing his racket and crying. Then we do our 2A approach, red word, green word. Okay, so let's think about vividly illustrates. I always think that's a nice one. Whenever they're trying to communicate across with imagery. Okay, vividly, illustrates. And then it's this idea again that men like this shouldn't be ruling the world. Okay, vividly illustrates that men lack the emotional maturity to confidently rule, or successfully rule. Okay, our society. And then we've got this new method now of choosing a second bit of evidence and saying how it supports this idea. Okay, so I might say this pathetic representation. Remember, we can put some theory in here. We can say that this binary representation, hegemonic representation. But if you're not confident with that, just literally tell me how he's being portrayed as a character. So this pathetic representation supported by, and here we're going to use we could either use that intertextual link to John McEnroe, or we could talk about the broken prop. I might talk about the broken prop. Okay, so this pathetic representation supported by the broken prop, the broken racket. Okay, emphasizes, and we've got our points here, isn't it? His fragile and broken male ego. Okay. Or I might say, instead of emphasizes, let's say reflects. Okay, or symbolizes would have been quite nice. Okay, reflects his fragile and broken ego, which cannot withstand the pressure of a loss. Yeah. Of not being the best. Okay, because that's what men are encouraged to be. Okay.
Do you have any groups that are speaking about, please?
Yeah, just down here. Thanks, fam. All right. As a result, okay, as something audience. Remember, we're always picking up what an audience reaction is. Okay, so here let's talk about we could either do a female or a male audience. Okay, let's do a female audience, because that's kind of where we've been going here. We've talked a lot about patriarchy. Let's talk about how a female audience react to this. Okay, returning to our point from the start about being led to question. Okay, so as a result, a female audience. Okay, and we could say it's left hoping. Okay, it's left with an overwhelming notion that. Okay, is encouraged to feel, let's go for that one, okay, is encouraged to see Taylor as a fierce force driving forward our need for social change, okay? There we go. And that is our paragraph.